is Robin with Creative2xmom, and today's video is going to be all about what we read in the month of February. So welcome back to my channel. My name is Robin and this is Creative2xmom. This channel is all about homeschooling, parenthood, and thriving in the day-to-day. Or in the case of today's video, really good books. I try to create a video like this one at the end of every month, sharing with you what I read personally as well as what we read with our kids. We are in our 9th year of homeschool and we always have some sort of read aloud going on throughout the day. So let's jump right into why you clicked onto this video, and that is the books that we read in the month of February. The first book that I read was a reread for me, and I've already returned it to the library, so I'm going to insert a picture here. It was Parenting Teens with Love and Logic. Now, the Love and Logic philosophy is something that we have followed all throughout our parenting journey. It has just made sense for our family, having natural consequences for our kids, but I think, as we all know, things sort of change when you have teenagers. The role of parenthood and kids and childhood very much so shifts. So I needed a little bit of a refresher, and this was a good book for me to go back to. I've shared before that we draw a lot from sort of that style of parenting. My favorite part of this book is that in the very end there is a section that's all about topics that you might deal with, specifically parenting teenagers. So they're dealing with video games, cell phones, dating, some of the things that aren't so easily addressed with the premise of Love and Logic. And each of those sections is about 3 to 4 pages long, very quick. If you just need a quick reference of, oh, hey, this popped up and I didn't see it coming and I need some answers, it's laid out there for you. The rest of the book is touching on how the role of Love and Logic changes as your kids become teenagers, how your role really changes as a parent, and how they are developing and growing sort of more into a guidance relationship, not so much a parent and child relationship, but a growing and helping them determine what they believe, who they are, and where they're heading in the rest of their life. Like I said, this is a reread for me, and so of course I would very much so give it 2 thumbs up. I'm not sure if I included it in my video about 5 books that shaped me as a parent, and if I didn't, I definitely need to go back and amend that video, because this is one of those books that continues to shape me in my parenting journey. I will link that video down below because it's a good one, and those are books that I go back to all the time as well. The next book that I read personally was Last Child in the Woods. This is by Richard Louv. This is a book that's been on my reading list several years in a row, but I don't think I ever actually got through it because there were parts of this book that I'm sure I've never read before. It was on my winter reading list, and so it was the next one I grabbed for. I will link that video down below for you. The whole premise of this book is getting our kids reconnected, getting that next generation reconnected with nature, getting them out and comfortable in the outdoors. So much of their lives are technology driven, particularly in a post-COVID world. Kids are online for school all the time, they're on their cell phones, they're playing video games with their friends, and they are socializing with these friends all over the world, and how that has really been detrimental both for their development, for their connection with family, for their connection with nature, and how ultimately it has been detrimental in our pursuit of being a more green society. I know that's a big hot topic right now, is how can we be a more green nation, and his premise is that when we have kids that are detached from the natural world, they sort of lose that passion and that drive. It might be a very trendy thing to do right now, but when you have a society that is detached from nature, you sort of lose momentum in that area because it no longer has value. And so his whole book is about getting reconnected and getting our kids reconnected with that. I agreed with a lot of the things that he talked about in this book. Very much so think that we need to get this generation back into nature, back into the outdoors, and rediscovering different species, rediscovering and finding comfort in the outdoors, because a lot of kids just aren't comfortable being outside anymore. There were a few things in here that felt a little bit fanatical, a little bit overreaching for just how we tend to view the outdoors. I think that it is important to be outside, but I think that there needs to be a mutual benefit between nature and humans. And he almost took this a little bit further than I would have. I probably would give this one 3 stars because I think there's some really great stuff in there, but I would also caution that there's some things that are just a bit much. My favorite part of the book, though, however, was in the back. There is 100 actions that we can take now, and this is all about things as far as you can take as an individual, actions that you can take as a parent, actions that you can take as a community member, and how to get more involved in this green movement. So I found this to be very applicable to where we are at. Moving on, the next book that I read was The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Somehow in my growing up years, I missed out on reading this one. It wasn't anything that I had ever picked up, and so in our World War II study, I picked this one up to pre-read ahead of my 7th grader a little bit. There was a few things that I wanted to be prepared for in conversation, and so I started reading through it. It is very powerful in that it is a first-hand experience of what was actually happening in World War II at that time. I think I miss a little bit. I probably would have better benefited this, and it would have had a larger impact on me having read it as a teenager, but looking back on it now, it is very valuable for that primary source information and really making that particular war very personal. Especially if you have a middle school or early high schooler, this will bring it down to their level, somebody that they can relate to and really get a good grasp on the fact that these were humans. These were real people with real emotions, real dreams, and real fears in World War II. World War II is one of my favorite time periods to read about, and so if you're a history buff, definitely pick that one up. As far as what we read with our kids this month, we actually got through 2, and that's because this one was mercifully very, very short. I'm going to start with this one because it was my least favorite of the 2, and that is The Tale of Rescue by Michael J. Rawson. This one was recommended as just a fun read aloud to go along with the winter season. Obviously, I'm in California, so it's not super cold, but we did have snow a couple of weeks ago, so this was a good one to curl up with and read. It's the tale of a family, mom and dad and a little boy, that are on foot when a sudden storm picks up and they get lost and they're just stuck in the snow, and there is nobody looking for them because they were on vacation, so it's not like they were meeting anyone. The father starts whistling and this cattle dog hears them, and so it's her story of going out and trying to save them. She tries to get somebody's attention to come follow her and go with her, and nobody comes, and so she uses her skills herding cattle to tramp down the snow and get them back to safety. We did like the story until we got to the very, very end, and this young boy has grown. He's gone back to try and find this cattle dog that saved his life, and that's where the story the ending was so unsatisfying. We got completely invested. It's only about 9 chapters long. We were so invested after the first 8 chapters, and then we got to the end and it just absolutely fell flat. So this one I would not recommend. I think if the story would have changed a little bit in the end, it would have been better, but it was just kind of especially when you get invested in this dog's life and then it was anticlimactic. However, there was one redeeming story to this month, and that was Shadow on the Mountain. This is by Margie Prius. This is a story of a young boy who, about 14 years old, is in Norway when the Nazis invade, and he is working to deliver underground newspapers. Of course, all communication has been shut off to the outside world, and he is already invested in seeing the Nazis kicked out of their country when he is recruited on a mission and kind of haphazardly becomes a boy spy in Norway. So it's all about his adventures, his misadventures, the people he meets, who can he trust. He has a childhood friend that he is torn between being friends with this guy because they have so many memories together, where his friend has been recruited by the Nazis and doesn't really want to be a part of that, but because of their control over the country. He does it out of love for his family and trying to provide for them. This story is all based upon real life adventures of a boy spy in Norway and how he ultimately had to escape to save his own life. One of the greatest moments in this story, I think, was when he meets his sister. He's supposed to be going to meet another agent. His sister happens to be there, and they discover that they have both been working behind the scenes on the same side, of course, but neither of them knew it because they couldn't talk about it. And that's one of the hardest things to realize in his story, was that he could never completely be himself with anyone because he didn't know where loyalties lied. Even with his own family, there was always a part of him that was having to hold back. Very, very good story. I knew it was a good one, and it was gripping when my 13-year-old daughter one day I finished a chapter and her mouth was hanging open. I said, "Do you want me to keep reading?" And she said yes. She was the one I knew I was going to have to really sell on this book, being a 14-year-old boy, main character, war type spy novel. I didn't think she was going to be into it at all, and when she was hooked, that's when I knew it was a good one. I can't recommend this one highly enough. Particularly, it was a little bit over my 9-year-old's head, but if you've got kids in that 12 to 15, maybe even 16 age range, really, really good historical novel for World War II. So what's next? What's coming up for March? I have so many good things coming up for March. I am working really hard to finish that winter reading list. I think I have probably 3 more books. I think I will get through 2. That's my goal, is to get through at least 2. So I have already started You Are the Girl for the Job by Jess Conley. This was on that list. This is a personal growth and development book, but I'm only a few chapters in, so I don't want to share a whole lot about that one. And as far as our read aloud, we were going to read A Night Divided, all about the raising of the Berlin Wall. We're at that point in history, and a lot of times our read alouds will be history based. However, apparently everybody wants to read that book right now because we are quite a ways down the library holds list. So I happen to have this one on hand. It's Heroes of History, and it's the Theodore Roosevelt edition by Janet and Jeff Benge, B-E-N-G-E. We have read and listened to several Heroes of History and Heroes of the Faith books. So we're going to try this one. I'm hoping it's not too biographical. The ones we've listened to in the past, I know, have really engaged us, and I'm hoping so because typically we're reading novels and not so much biographies, so I'm hoping this is engaging enough until we get our hands on that other one. If not, I'm going to need suggestions. So that is my question today. If you would leave me a comment down below and let me know, if you read aloud with your kids, what are they really loving right now? Again, I have a 13-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son, 7th and 4th grade. So I am a little bit stumped if this one doesn't go over well. So that's all the books that we read in the month of February. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you are loving to read right now. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.